This is one of many lunch and learns we'll have, sharing some of the work that we do here at Social Impact Partners. But really today, what I wanted to highlight is how we as Social Impact Partners and how I myself have been utilizing some of the new AI tools that have been coming into light. So really just want to share with you some toolkits that I've been using and make this as conversational as possible. Just to provide you with an overview. So I am by no means an expert in AI, but I've had the great privilege here at Social Impact Partners to really dive deep into using AI and making it a part of our day-to-day work, and just understanding how we as Social Impact Partners can be more efficient with these new technologies that keep appearing and coming onto the scene, right? So today, what I really want to focus on is providing you with an overview of what an AI model is, reviewing some of the risks that come with using AI, the safety and vulnerability concerns that might exist with using large language models, and then really want to think about what it means to be a good prompt engineer, right? As important as selecting the right model is, I think it's as important to think about what it means to be a good prompt engineer. So I want to talk a little bit about how to write a good prompt, give you all some examples, tips and tricks to writing good prompts. And then finally, we'll go into a demo session where I show you guys all the different tools that I've been utilizing. And this is by no means a comprehensive list of all the tools that exist, but these are some of the major tools that we use here at Social Impact Partners. But before we get started, I think we can just start with a little question. So feel free to unmute yourself and answer this, but really just want to get a sense of what your current experience is with AI, right? Would you consider yourself a newbie, or have you been using a lot of these tools in your day-to-day work, and how has that been like? What tools have you been using? Yeah, feel free to add comments in the chat or unmute yourself and give us a response.
You see the chat.
Chris Kuhnhart, newbie.
Nice.
A little bit B, I've explored a little bit, but not much.
Nice. What tools have you been using, Chris? Have you used ChatGPT or any of the other tools like it?
This ChatGPT.
Gotcha.
In the chat, we have a lot of newbies who are eager to learn, as I am. And Nancy, she uses it every day, but not sure if she trusts all the things it provides.
Absolutely. And I think that's a major concern, right? So being aware of what tools you're using is going to be really important. But it's good to know that most of you are newbies. So this is going to be, very high level understanding of some of these tools. So really want to just start off by giving you guys some context, right? So, the development and research in AI has been exploding in recent years, and you've seen this, especially with large scale models that are being developed by large foundations like Google, OpenAI, Anthropic that are really demonstrating exceptional capabilities, right? But the development of AI really didn't start, the last 2 years. It's been around for quite a long time. As early as 1950s, programmers were developing human logic and reasoning into their codes. And now with the development of machine learning tools, you've seen the significant explosion in these chatbots or large language models like ChatGPT and Claude. Obviously, with the development of these tools, they're incredibly costly, right? So training the ChatGPT model or Google's Gemini model costs anywhere between $80 million to anywhere from $80 million to $200 million. So these are not really accessible things for small organizations like ours to create new LLMs or design new models. So really they're within reach for some of the larger organizations. But we've seen in this, you see the bottom graph here, a significant spike in the number of foundational models that are being developed in the last 2 years. With these models, obviously, there's a lot of concerns with safety, right? And as Deb mentioned, not trusting some of these large language models. They can often produce inappropriate responses. And those responses can come in different forms, right? They can provide incorrect information. And a great example of this is, I think, Air Canada's chatbot that was giving customers wrong information about bereavement fares, leading to a lot of legal actions against Air Canada. So, creating a poor model or a model that doesn't have the right level of accuracy can have some real world consequences, including financial losses or legal challenges that come with using some models like this. Another common concern with using AI is the bias and discrimination that comes with coding algorithms. A lot of these can reflect some of our own biases and prejudice that we have. And we saw that right away with Google's initial Gemini launch, where it wasn't able to generate certain characters from historical figures. Certain historical figures it didn't depict the right way because of some of the bias that it had internally. And then obviously the major concern that we are all aware of is data privacy, right? With new models popping up every day, and a lot of them having access to very sensitive information. It's really important that, new tools have the right level of security in place to really measure that, to make sure that when, if a hack happened or if breaches happen, that private data is not just shared broadly, right? So really need to be thoughtful about making sure that data privacy is at the center of the way we design and think about AI models. And then obviously we've also seen some of the harmful applications of AI, right? From fake political campaign ads to swagged out picture of the Pope, which I thought was real initially, but so there's definitely a lot of applications, but I think they all come with a small caveat, right? Making sure that the models that we're using, the way that they're developed is done with the business in mind and making sure it's done avoiding any data risks. So although these tools are developing and coming up every day, it can be very challenging to work with some of these tools, right? Large language models are growing rapidly and changing, and they can range from a simple chatbot to a research tool and even more creative things like using it to write code. That being said, with this constant evolution, you get to have inconsistencies in terms of the type of quality, in terms of the type of models that are produced, right? So you can give the same prompts to different APIs or different models, and you'll get completely different answers.
Is that because they're pulling from different data sources?
Pulling from different data sources, it also is dependent on like how they're trained, right? So if they're trained to do specific things like math or data analytics, it does much better doing that instead of a writing prompt if you give it something to write. Yeah.
I guess, how do you, with so many different applications, how do you know which one is right?
No, yeah, I think it's a great question. And it really takes playing around with it, right? So I think with any AI tool, it's really being AI agnostic and not focusing on a single tool to answer all your questions. There's no silver bullet that answers or solves any of these problems. So it's playing around with different tools, figuring out what works, using different things for different ideas. And I'll share some of those, but for writing, you might focus on one tool that does a better job, that's trained to do a really good research work, while other tools can really help you develop code better because that's how they're trained. But they're not easy tools to work with. But because they're not easy tools to work with, I think it's as important to make sure that we're asking the right questions, right? And with any use of AI, I think it's as important to think about the way we use prompts and the way we write the prompt. So before we go into looking at the different AI models that exist, I want to think about how do we write the right prompts, right? What are the key components of writing good prompts? So the way I think about prompt design is really looking at it in 4 sections, right? So really starting off your prompt by providing the model that you're using with context, so giving it background information on what you want it to do. And then being very specific and clear about the task or the instruction that you want it to perform, right? Asking it specific questions that you want it to perform. And then providing with input data. So these AI models are often trained to load Excel files, PDFs, or even PowerPoint. So giving it that input data often grounds the model and then giving as accurate of a response as possible. So I think the more inputs that you can give it, the better that response will look like, the better that response will be. And then lastly, I think an important part of prompt design is thinking about the output format, right? So how do you want it to respond to you? What type of style would you want it to respond to? So specifying the structure, whether it's formal or informal, whether you want tables or bullets, being as specific as possible. And I think including these 4 key components in your prompt design can really lead to better responses, more accurate responses. That being said, it still needs oversight, right? You can't just trust everything that it says. It needs a bit more QA and somebody to look over the data. So let's look at some examples of prompt design, right? In my work, I really was brought on to do early childhood work initially, but then I got thrust into looking at dual enrollment and early college for the project that we're working on with the Connecticut State Colleges and Universities. So a context that I might set for AI that I'm using is something like you're a nonprofit consultant that works that specializes in career pathway oriented dual enrollment program. So giving it that expertise really grounds the LLM to really think about its answer from the perspective of an expert that focuses on career pathways or dual enrollment, right? And then I want to be specific about that task. What do I want it to do, right? I want it to analyze the different initiatives that exist, the different models, funding models that exist, and compare them. And I want to be very precise on which models those are. And then I want to give it input data, right? So in the same prompt, I'm also including something like this, where I give it input data to analyze. So I'll give it a PDF file or a PowerPoint deck like Columbia's research that really dives deep into dual enrollment or career pathway oriented dual enrollment. And then lastly, I want to be specific about how I want it to respond, right? I want it to be conversational. I want it to be super formal, or I wanted to highlight, pros and cons of early college based on the input data that I gave it. So setting this context window, setting the specific instructions, input data, and the way that you want it to respond, I think really creates the best possible prompts. Just a few additional tips and tricks, right? Initially, right away, most of the time I tell it to act as an expert in a field, right? That really helps me ground the LLM in the specific topic that I want to cover. And then I think what LLMs are good at, or these models are good at, is doing things one step at a time. They don't really do large tasks, writing like a full page paper or a huge research all at once. But thinking about each aspect of my ask in a step-by-step process really helps generate the best level of response. And then to really avoid hallucination, which is very common with large language models, one of the things that I try to make sure is to, in my prompt, to say, include a reference or include a source to where you're getting this information from. And then lastly, you want to give it as clean of a PDF or files as possible, right? So when loading in an Excel file into one of these models, make sure that you're not just giving it a Excel file with, random cells all over the place. Make sure it's clean and structured. Or when you're feeding it a PDF, that it's not like a picture PDF, right? It's a clean PDF that, that's legible for the computer. And then, yeah.
I have a question. Do you ask it to provide dates of the sources?
So when I say sources, it's usually referencing the knowledge base that I feed it, right? So if I feed it a PDF file, I'll ask it to reference a page number that I looked at. But usually when it's referencing a website, so I use a tool called Perplexity, for example, it'll give you direct links to the source. So you'll have a view of the sources right below you, the response that it gives you.
And can you ask the like ChatGPT to check for accuracy or update a source that you're giving it, like a spreadsheet, for example, or not?
If you provide it with an updated spreadsheet, it will be able to do that, but it will only be as accurate as the information that you feed it, right? So, for example, I'll show you a file that we created that has all our old naming conventions, right? We were formerly known as social venture partners. So everything that's referenced in that chatbot is SVP as opposed to social impact partners. But whenever we update those naming conventions in the source document, the chatbot will also update. But until we do that update, it won't reflect that new change.
Just one more question, sorry. If I gave using your example kind of as a base, if I asked ChatGPT to provide the total enrollment of all the Alliance school districts in the state of Connecticut, that I found that doesn't give me accurate information. So to make that prompt easier, if I gave it a list of the schools, would that help to provide the information and asked for the source?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. depending on the AI model that you use, some AI models are trained on live, the internet, right? Like they can access the internet live. I don't think ChatGPT has that ability, so you won't be able to pull direct data from like live websites.
I think it's gotten better in the last year.
Mhm,
I mean, a year, sorry, I first used it like a year and a half ago.
mhm,
And then it said, oh, I'm not connected to the internet. My most current data is 2 years old.
right.
But it seems to be, I don't know if it's truly connected, but it seems to be a lot
Yeah,
more.
I don't know if it's fully real time, is
Yeah.
the main point here. But
It can
also
pull
the other
some
thing-
information, I found, not everything, and not full-throatedly, not accurately.
The other thing that I noticed with these large language models is that they don't have the clear ability to parse through data on websites. So it can go through the SDE website, look at the different tables that are created in there and pull out those specific numbers like you're asking for. So it might do it, but it might not do it accurately. So I'll just be very hesitant whenever pulling in data from websites, especially if they're like large websites that like SDs that contain some of those enrollment numbers.
SDE, State Department of
State Department,
Education.
yep, exactly. Any other questions before I move on? Awesome. So really, I would bucket our AI toolkits or the different AI toolkits that we use in three different categories, right? Communication tools, tools that we use for content creation, automation and productivity, and then my new favorite area is analytics and web development. And really AIs have become really good at developing high quality content, right? So tools like ChatGPT or Grammarly can help you draft different materials for, research or for different proposals. But they can often be generic, right? So they really do require the right level of QA and oversight. You can't just trust everything that it says, blindly. I think one clear example of this for us in our case is our use of Otter AI. So in our work with the Connecticut College of State Universities, we wanted to do a lot of stakeholder engagement work. We went around different campuses doing that stakeholder engagement work, and we had a person taking notes, and then we had Otter AI also taking those notes. And we found that this worked in some cases, but in cases where we had large rooms where people were talking over each other, the accuracy of that tool is very limited, right? So we really needed that extra person to go through those notes and make sure that whatever we were highlighting was as precise as possible. So they're good, they work, but they work only in certain environments, right? Like Otter AI did in that case. And then there are other tools, right? Tools like Zapier or Make.com that really help organizations do more of that automation work. So Zapier is really helpful in developing automated workflows. So it can help you create communication tools, things like it can help you connect with your social media app and it will trigger an email, or your website, and it'll trigger an email when a new user, subscribes to your website, and it'll send that person, a customized email based on their location or their geography. Make.com also has similar tools that really allow you to automate things like ad leads from your Facebook ads or your Instagram ads to a Salesforce platform, for example. And then in the bucket of analytics and development, I've really fallen deep into Cursor AI, something that I've always been interested in. My background is really in bio and data analytics, but I really wanted to get into programming and understanding how I can program. And Cursor AI now allows you to program in the English language, which I think is pretty remarkable. Claude AI works very similarly to ChatGPT, but I also find it to be very useful in writing Excel formulas or doing some of that data analytics. Seems to be much better at doing that.
And a lot of these you have to pay for, correct?
A lot of them are actually free at the base level, but for premium memberships and for more of that customizable ability like ChatGPT, you do have to get that paid subscription. But Perplexity is free, ChatGPT is free at the generic levels. Claude is free. Most of these are all free, to be honest. Zapier and Make.com also have, or Zapier and IBM Watson, I think cost money. And I actually even have steep learning curves. I don't think Zapier or Make.com are that intuitive compared to the other AIs, but they do work really well in terms of helping you create streamline workflows.
And Microsoft just came out with Pilot, right? That's their version of Gemini or.
Exactly. So those are most of the tools. Before I continue, I know I just like spewed a bunch of information, so I'll pause, take any questions, and then I want to show you guys some of these tools in action. So any questions so far? Do we have questions in the chat?
I like your slide.
So if we don't have questions, I think we can just directly jump into a live demo of some of these tools. I want to start by looking at ChatGPT. So let's just start from new. You know, most people go into ChatGPT, they see something like this, right? But the really cool feature that we've been utilizing here within Social Impact Partners is the custom GPT. So here in this Explore section, you have the ability to create custom GPT. So you can feed these custom GPTs your own knowledge bases. You can customize it to be very prescriptive in terms of how you want it to behave, right? You want it to be a tutor, you want it to be an expert. So it really allows for unique customizations and configurations, and as well as being able to upload your own knowledge base, right? So you can upload PDF documents, Word documents, PowerPoints, or even websites into custom GPTs. But from custom GPTs, what we're able to develop are these unique GPTs that are specific to social impact partners. Nobody else has access to these GPTs. They're only accessible to us. And then one of the things that comes with the premium subscription for ChatGPT is I don't believe OpenAI trains their models on these custom information. But from this custom tools, what we're able to create is something like a partner directory, right? The partner directory is a list of all our partners and all the information that we've gathered on them or we know about them. In our Salesforce information, we've gathered it and put it into an Excel document and created a custom GPT that allows our staff to go in and identify different SVP partners or social impact partners that can work on different projects or initiatives, right? So, for example, you can go into this partner directory GPT and ask a question like this, and you want to be as detailed as possible in what you're asking, right? So I'm asking to look at the data table, looking for skills and experiences for our partners, and then specifying what source that I want to look at. And then highlighting different areas that I know exist within the Excel file that I've loaded into this GPT.
So that's only as good as the Excel file. It's only as current as the Excel file you uploaded.
Exactly. One of the things you'll note is a lot of our old documentation says social venture partners. So you'll see that all the old information is still there, right? So it won't update any of that until you feed it new information. And this is pretty old, so.
Got it.
But yeah, so what it does is it goes through the knowledge base and it's able to identify based on the criteria that I gave it, right? I want volunteer partners with workforce development experience, and I wanted to highlight their skills and their interests. So it's picked out a few partners, right? Robert Smith, Ted Yang, and then starts to highlight their joint date and their professional experience. And this is all detail that we fed it. You can ask more follow-up questions, right? So you can say,
So this is based on their LinkedIn profiles.
this is based on LinkedIn profiles and all the information we have about some of the partners. Yeah, talk more about Ted Yang, right? And I'll give you specific information about Ted Yang. Just to keep going, I want to show you a few more other custom GPTs that I think are useful.
See what it gave.
And just a quick question here from Scott, but he's wondering, if I upload a data source for AI analysis, does it then become part of the public domain, or is there a way that we can all keep this private?
If you use the free chat GPT.
I think the free ChatGPT one, they say that they train their models on your inputs, but if you have the premium membership, I don't think that's the case. Yeah. But yeah, here again, it gives you the description of Ted Yang and all the information that we have on him. But another tool that I think, or another custom GPT that I think is useful is our onboarding GPT. And this GPT really has all the background information on social impact partners, from the reimbursement policies or tech reimbursement policies to 401k plans and all those details. So any new hire within our organization can go in here, ask specific questions to these GPTs, and it'll highlight that information. So again, some of the things that I've fed this GPT is our reports and documents that we've developed over the years, but these are pretty old reports, right? So I have reports from 2022. So any new information that we have from the last year or so won't be included in here. But based on that information, it's able to pull out some of the key areas that we focus on, like workforce development and early childhood education, and highlight some of the key things that are stated within those documents that we fed it. Again, this was developed a long time ago, so the data is not up to date, or the information is not up to date. So we really need to make sure that we're maintaining these custom GPTs as we build them.
But yeah, so I'm looking at workforce development, the second bullet.
Mhm.
We didn't launch the Good Jobs Challenge with the grant. So again, you have to parse through it and just make sure it didn't pick up information and attribute it to us. Yeah.
Exactly. And again, if we feed it a document that talks about the Good Job Challenge and it's a part of the SVP onboarding document, it might assume that it's a part of the entire ecosphere of like what SVP or social impact partner was
Right.
doing. So you do it, like you're saying, have to be like really thoughtful about what type of knowledge base that you're feeding the GPTs.
Yep.
So this is custom GPTs. I want to move on quickly to show you guys what Perplexity looks like. Perplexity AI to me is my go-to search engine now. I barely use Google. What I really like about Perplexity is you can ask it very specific questions, and it'll provide those sources that we were talking about earlier, right? We can ask a simple question like, you're thinking about a Thanksgiving meal and you wanted to create a Thanksgiving meal for you inspired by your favorite show, MasterChef, and then come up with a grocery list based on that, right? It does it, so it gives you, a menu, it gives you a menu, and then it gives you grocery lists for each of the menu items. But I think what's really important and powerful about it is it gives you the sources of where it's pulling that information from, right? So I was looking at these 8 articles / videos to really pull the details that it's giving you. So it's not just making it up, or you'll know exactly where that information is coming from by just clicking on the links, reading through the articles, or watching the YouTube videos themselves.
Quick question from Tamara, but if you edit the Chat GPT output to correct info, are your corrections absorbed by the GPT database? So in future work, the updated information will be used.
Exactly. You can do that here. With these custom GPTs, you have this edit function. So you can go into this edit function and update the knowledge base and even the instruction of the GPT, right? So you want it to be a bit more conversational or a bit more formal in its style. So you can update those instructions and criteria.
Can I tell them about two things they might find interesting with respect to writing? One of them is, this was crazy, but a lot of you know Shannon Merriman, and she's originally from Spain. She speaks Spanish. So when we first were looking at this, we just had ChatGPT. We just asked it to rewrite Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven in Spanish in iambic pentameter, and it just did it. So then the other night, my wife, who works at a university, at a college, in their career center, got some very poorly written essay responses from a student. Didn't want to tell her, how to rewrite this, but just took the first response, typed it into ChatGPT and explained that this person was applying to Stanford University for this particular program, blah, blah, blah. Please rewrite the sentence to reflect, the audience that would be receiving this. And sure enough, it refined the first few sentences. So if you have a thought or an idea and you want to clean it up, and you want to clean it up quickly, it can get you a lot of the way there, and then you can finish it off.
Right.
So I know that's something that can take a lot of time to write something really well.
For sure. yeah, it really helps with those like drafts. What I will say is it is generic, right? It can be generic and doesn't really have that human touch or that like empathy that you need in a lot of like our writing, especially as nonprofits, right? So you can't just take everything that it says at face value. It really does require you to look at every line and make sure it aligns with the message that you're trying to convey in your requests or proposals. Yeah.
I would, if I could add on, I
Yeah.
would say absolutely. I've been hiring, I work in a nonprofit, I've been hiring people. I have received some really hideously written, AI written cover letters. Yeah, that they clearly fed their resume in with my job description and merged the words.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Did I answer your questions on the GPT edit functions? Okay, there are no more questions. So again, I just wanted to highlight Perplexity as like a really amazing tool for search engine. This is really where I go to start some of my research, right? Help me identify different articles for different topics. So, I'm exploring early childhood education and very specific things within that field. So I'll say, give me some articles or give me some research based on that. I'll go click through the links and maybe even download some of them so I can create custom GPTs with them. So Perplexity is really my starting place for a lot of my research that I do, and I think could be useful to a lot of you.
And that one's free.
This is completely free. Again, there's a pro version, but I don't think that really makes that big of a difference. So using just the
Can Perplexity create a PowerPoint file, or does it just create text?
it just creates text for the most part.
And can you, if you have, like, if you're in Perplexity and you have a website
Mhm.
that like social impact partners that you want to summarize, can you ask it to summarize it by category and sort of make sense of it, or?
You can, right, with that caveat that it'll give you a great overview of what Social Impact Partners does, but it won't do that deep dive of going through the different documentations that we probably have uploaded on our website that talk about, what our volunteer partners do or our newsletters. It doesn't have that nuance that it needs. Yeah.
Understood.
Yeah. And then the other tool that I want to show is this tool called Notebook LM. This is a new tool, experimental thing that Google released, but I think it's really interesting, if not insanely cool, and how it works. So this is really a scratch pad for you to brainstorm ideas and start your research. And the different functionalities are you can upload different documents. So let's say I'm doing research on dual enrollment with community colleges. So I've uploaded this document in here. It's a pretty long document, and I'm running late to a meeting and don't have time to really read through all of it per se. You can go here and there's this audio generate function, which I think is really interesting, but it helps you generate a podcast. So you can take an article or a PowerPoint deck or an Excel file, and it helps
I wonder how
a podcast. So let's just listen in real quick. Let me know if you guys can't hear it.
community colleges make dual enrollment work financially.
Yeah, it's a good question.
It's this balancing act offering college courses to.
That's terrifying, but like cool.
Discount.
Right.
And somehow making the numbers work.
Yeah,
So we're diving into a paper from Columbia University's Community College Research Center.
okay,
Community colleges afford dual enrollment at a discount.
okay.
They've done some serious number crunching, and we're here to untangle it all for you.
It's a fascinating puzzle, really.
Yeah,
The paper uses a typical community college model based on national data,
right,
but emphasizes the huge variation in funding from state to state.
right.
They focus on cases where colleges offer discounted DE tuition,
Okay,
a common practice, but one that raises major questions about financial sustainability.
okay, so let's unpack that. We know dual enrollment program.
That's why.
That's all.
Well, you showed me that this
That's
morning. I thought they were gonna introduce Nebiyu and
That's
this is a real podcast.
And that's all AI, like those
This is
voices.
all AI generated.
That's
Show you
It's like
another,
there are no people involved in this.
right?
Nancy is wondering, are you a notebook generated hologram? How do we know this is?
How do we know you're not an avatar?
Exactly.
Holy mackerel.
You know, you often get like a lot of decks, right? Like the night before a meeting is due or something. I think this can come really handy in helping you review that deck. So one of the things that we got, I think a few days ago, is this 80-page CSCU document that we created. And you might not have time to review this before a meeting the next day, but you can create a notebook that helps you analyze that. So let's just take a quick listen at this because I thought this was really interesting. This is something that we created. This is what it looks like. You know, it's 80 slides of really key highlights that we had from our work within Renew CSCU. So let's just take a quick listen here.
All right, so we're diving into the future of higher education in Connecticut today. And let me tell you, it's a lot more than just numbers on a page.
It really is.
We're talking declining enrollment, we're looking at skills gaps, and honestly, it feels like a prime opportunity to shake things up a bit.
Yeah.
Our main focus today is this draft document, Opportunities to Fast Track Improvements for Students. Social impact partners for Connecticut, they put this thing together and they're really trying to put their finger on what makes this situation unique to Connecticut.
Yeah, and what's interesting is this isn't just about throwing money at the problem.
Right.
This document lays out a pretty bold vision, like a complete system overhaul, starting with the Connecticut State Colleges and Universities system.
CSCU.
CSCU, exactly.
Okay, so CSCU.
It sounds like real people. Like I'm.
No, so yeah, you guys can see.
Or not.
No.
This is like, that's great.
No, it blew my mind as well. I think what I want to caveat this tool with is it does a great job with that overview again, right? Starting off, giving you that background information, but that nuanced detail of what's actually included in the slides is still going to be missing, right? So you're still going to need to go through, review our 80 slides and really understand the recommendations that we're giving. But if you're running late to a meeting, you really just need that overview right away. What's better than just listening to another NPR podcast, but this time it's a CSCU podcast or a document that you feed it yourself. And I think this can have even broader applications, right? For students that want to use it for study guides, right? They can feed it documents and it'll help you create a study guide based on the information that you gave it. You can create brief documents, you can create FAQs, table of content. So it really helps you dive deeper into the knowledge base that you feed it. And then similar to the ChatGPT, it also has that chat function, right? So you can ask it very specific questions about, you know, what recommendations is social impact partners giving around dual enrollment, for example. And if there's a slide on that within the knowledge base, I'll look through that information and it'll pull in that detail.
With the audio overview, Nancy's wondering, can you change the time of the podcast? Like, let's say you have a minute before your next meeting and you like are just trying to get as much info. Can you change?
There's not as much like customization functionalities with the podcast, but this is an experimental phase for Google. So I'm guessing as they launch the full product here, this will be much, you know, much more capable in terms of like creating custom audio and things like that.
Yeah, I know.
It's terrifying. It's so weird.
Blew my mind.
That was almost like uncanny valley type stuff.
Yeah, right.
Like something's wrong.
Went to school for podcasting recently.
And then the last, well, a few more actually, two more products that I want to show you all. One of them being Claude. So Claude, I think, works very similarly to ChatGPT. It's very conversational. You can ask it very generic questions, but I think it's most useful for more of that complex reasoning, right? So giving it, you know, an Excel formula, more of that complex work that you want to do. I think Claude works much better. So let me just give you an example. So I'll feed it something like this, right? Giving it very detailed description of what's included in my Excel file, the columns that I wanted to look at, and then the type of formula that I wanted to develop. I'll go through and help you develop an Excel formula based on the parameters that you've given it, and you can directly copy this formula into your Excel files and help you write that in a matter of seconds, obviously, right? And I think that's a really awesome functionality. Oftentimes it's an iterative process where you're gonna have to update maybe different, you know, ask a little bit, but it does a really good job in just speeding up your ability to develop and write not just Excel formulas, but even codes, right? So one of the things that I've been really intrigued by is the ability to write code using the English language. I think There's so many tools that I want to create. There's like custom tools that we want to develop here at Social Impact Partners. So I've been thinking about how do we write code, how do we, or how can I learn to write code using an AI, right? And thanks to the wonders of technology, they have developed this tool called Cursor AI, and I want to show you what that looks like. Give me 1 second. Can you guys see my screen? Can you guys see what I'm sharing?
Yes.
Okay. I know this looks like a lot, but what Cursor AI really allows you to do is create a developer environment, right? It allows you to create a different setup styles, right? So here I have the setup for creating a website that looks at our partners across the state, and then hopefully creates a dashboard that is geared towards our board members, right? And this is still in the development phase, so I'm just showing you guys what it looks like now, but we're still yet to deploy this. So what we've done is we've set up different environments like HTML environments that structure the data or that structure the code. We've set up, they're not all popping up here, but
Did your query create all that?
right. So it's an iterative process, but here on the right side, what Cursor has done is created this chat function that allows you to toggle between the different models that we just talked about. So you can use ChatGPT-4 or Claude or the new GPTs to ask it very specific questions, right? So you can say, based on what you've developed and written, you can say, I want to update a specific part of the website, right? What I did was I started with 0. I started with nothing. Said I wanted to develop a website. I want to create these different portions to that website. So I want to create a box with a map of Connecticut, right? And pull in a leaflet map. We'll write that code for that. Here's an example of input that I gave it, right? First, let me show you the website, I guess.
Yeah.
Let me show you what it looks like.
Wow.
Mhm. Give me 1 second. Can you guys see this?
Yes.
Okay. So what I did was I wanted to create different components to this, right? So I asked in the English language, which I think is incredible. I asked it, oh, I want to create a map of Connecticut, right? What tools can I use? It referenced the tool called Leaflet, and it was able to go and retrieve a map of Connecticut using Leaflet. And then I said, oh, I have this video that I want to embed into my website. So I pulled down one of the videos that we had on our website, and then I included it in that data. And it helped me write the code to develop or to embed a video that I had directly onto this new website that I've developed. I wanted to showcase a table with a list of all our partners, right? So in the English language, I'll write a prompt that says, I want to create a table that includes all this information. And I'll feed it, the names of the towns, the counties, and the number of partners that we have in each of those locations. And it'll help me create that. The thing with the Cursor AI is it's not perfect, right? So sometimes you'll ask it to create a table like this, and it will overlay the table on top of this new video that you have. So it's an iterative thing, right? So you have to go back in and say, the table doesn't extend all the way to the bottom, so I want to extend the table to make sure it fits the full page. I want to make sure the transition happens quickly from, the videos to the maps, right? So you can change the different features of the map or the website. And then, this is just the general page showing the map of Connecticut, our different counties, the table of our partners. But I wanted to develop something more complex, right? So the next stage was developing a sample dashboard for what would be a live dashboard in the future. But here, I'm telling it to create these different boxes, right? So I want 4 KPIs at the top is what I'm saying to the Cursor AI chatbot. Those, KPIs should be the number of partners that we have, the total grants that we give, the number of volunteer hours, and the number of nonprofit partners that we've supported. So it does that, you want to say, oh, I want to change the color of this box to be blue, you can literally write that in Cursor AI and it will update. And sometimes it might not do it properly, right? But through, I think, a day or two's work, I went from no code experience to developing an entire dashboard that's almost fully functional.
And the information is coming from Excel spreadsheets and things you given it?
No, so I feed it directly into the chatbot, right? So in Cursor app, I'll say, I'll give it this data set, for example, saying, oh, I have this data set. But in the case of the table that you saw earlier here, I gave it all that information as well. In the case of the video or the PowerPoint deck, I embedded that video or that deck into the coder, and it'll live in a folder, in my local folder. And all of these, again, all this is not deployed yet, so you'll see that it lives on my local drive. But when it is deployed, those videos, those documents that are going to be a part of that website need to be stored somewhere. So they'll be stored on like a GitHub or an AWS account where we can in the cloud, right? And then we can really deploy this so anybody has access to it.
Gotcha.
But I think it's remarkable that you can go from having zero code experience to developing a whole dashboard using the English language. I think that just shows you how quickly this technology is innovating and changing. And yeah, like just excited that other people will get a chance to work with it and really create their own tools, right?
Now, if you wanted to do this and make it a slide, could you say, make it a downloadable PDF or something, or is this purely a URL cloud scenario?
So, right, I think this goes back to the idea of different AI models will have different use cases, right? So Cursor AI for me is really a developer's AI. It helps you write code faster, it helps you develop things quicker. ChatGPT or some of the other tools like Gamma, for example, helps you create a draft for a PowerPoint deck. So that is a model that you can, say, oh, I want to create a PowerPoint deck on early college or workforce development, for example.
Yeah.
It'll give you the template for all that. And it'll be very generic, but it'll be a great starting place, right? So
Can you upload certain data sets and things like that and say, make me a PowerPoint?
yes, you can. It will do it very generically, right? So you really need to be like careful on what you're feeding, especially if you're feeding it data. I think these models are not as good at reading and responding to data. I would say they have, a really smart high school level IQ, if not like a college student's level of IQ in terms of analyzing real information. So I think we need to be careful in what model you're using. So something like the new GPTs that they've released, right? I think GPT 4.0, for example, has better reasoning abilities, right? So for more of those complex asks, you'd rely on a GPT 4.0 or a Claude 3.5, right? So really being thoughtful about what type of asks you have and then what tools you're using for those asks.
Okay.
But yeah, those are most of the tools that I think I was thinking about sharing. I'll take a pause here and see if you all have any questions or want to dive deeper into any of the other tools. But yeah.
You're gonna obsolete yourself with all these tools, especially the coding one.
No, for sure.
I have ChatGPT 4 and I love to play around with it, but while during this presentation, I asked it to name the top 10 free AI tools. And I described who I was, an ED of a new education organization. And it didn't give me Notebook or Perplexity or one of the other ones you mentioned. So I said, what about that? And it said, great ideas, I'll add it. And then I downloaded the spreadsheet, so I had it. So I have it now.
Nice.
It's Chris Kunard. I'll reemphasize the question that I put into the chat, which is, since our nonprofit partners are always resource starved, an efficiency tool like this, my guess is a lot of them haven't really dug deep into AI and how it can improve their productivity. I don't know if that's something, we can help to teach them, or if that's beyond scope of what we're prepared to do.
No, that's definitely within the scope of what we want to do, Chris. I've been talking to Susan at B1C, doing a launch there first, doing some trainings there, but I think this is definitely something that we can roll out to more of our nonprofit partners.
I can echo that, even if, a follow-on lunch and learn that's specifically targeted to some not-for-profit partners that want to use these tools to streamline and help support them, since we are all time and staff constrained. But this is an amazing start. I really appreciate it.
I think it gives you a lot, now everybody can start checking out Perplexity and all the other ones. And as I said, we can send this deck to everyone, and it might take a couple days to get the recording up to YouTube, but we'll send the deck to everybody on the call, so you can get some of the names of the different chat GPTs. What do we call them? Large learning models.
Yeah, the models.
Large language models. So chat GPT is a large language model, as is Perplexity.
Exactly.
I was gonna ask that question, but I was like, I'm gonna be the only one who doesn't know what it means.
I would emphasize that there's no such thing as a stupid question.
True.
This is so new.
No, exactly.
It's always
So
a source
just-
of comfort to me to hear some of the gibberish that gets spit back to me from ChatGPT, because it's that always makes me feel better, because I'm just starting out with all this stuff. So, but that automating the tasks that always take me so long to do, and I wish I had another staff person to give them to, that was amazing. That's a session in and of itself. I'm going to play around with that. So thank you for that.
For sure. I think Make is definitely an easier tool to use than Zapier, but they're both really good at those workflow automations.
I use Zapier. If we do an event, we use Eventbrite. Zapier will update in Salesforce as registrations come in. It'll update in Salesforce, but you do have to, in Zapier, kind of say, pull from here, and this is where you send it, and that kind of stuff. So it takes a little trial and error to get it right.
All right. Well, thank you all for joining. This was so informative and eye-opening and slightly terrifying, but very exciting. Just to send you guys a few little updates to keep in mind. We're going to be doing these lunch and learns, every single month. So, stay tuned for some more details around what the next one will be. Some topics we're thinking about is, maybe getting in some of our new ECE community partners, learning a lot about Renew CSU and all the incredible work they're doing, and lots of more fun ideas. And then also just highlighting that we're looking into our mix and mingle. We're thinking 3 locations in the New Haven, Upper Fairfield County, and Lower Fairfield County. At these dates, we will specify exactly what, location it's going to be and exactly where it will be and at what date corresponds with each location. But just to keep those in your mind, if you want to come, it's going to be super, super casual, just hanging out, getting to know each other, connecting at, a bar, and just having a good time.
Caroline, do you know where does it go in order? So it's New Haven is October 9th and so forth, or you don't know yet?
So we don't know yet. We're still trying to clarify. These are the 3 dates they will be. But we will be sending, one of our many emails out, letting you guys know which date corresponds to which location. So then you have that in your calendar and which one, is most convenient for you to come to if you're interested.
Sounds good.